Clarence Thomas is in the news as well. Did you see this? First of all, Roy Wood Jr., chef's kiss to
Yes.
you. Your masterful dismantling of Clarence Thomas and calling him an NFT and explaining why he's an NFT was brilliant at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And then it got confirmed. Today, the story comes out that Justice Clarence Thomas, back in 2008, sent his teenage grandnephew to Hidden Lake Academy, which is a private boarding school in the foothills of northern Georgia. The boy, his name was Mark Martin, but the school was paid for by Harlan Crow.
$6,200 a month.
Harlan Crow paid for, now they make a lot of money, these Supreme Court justices. They can do book deals. They can do speaking. They can do a lot of stuff to make money. Why did he need Harlan Crow to pay for his grandnephew's boarding school? This is such a weird story to me. I can't figure it out.
I'm so depressed by this because it's like, what do we do? Because we have the Supreme Court policing itself. John Roberts is supposed to be the one who's all like worried about the legitimacy and the history and how it's going to be viewed in history. Then why hasn't he pulled, Brother Thomas, and I use the word brother in air quotes, aside and said, hey, listen, this is damaging to the court. And then also,
well, I think it's because, hold on. I think it's because Chief Justice's wife, Jane Roberts, made more than $10 million in commission over an 8-year stretch where she was a lawyer, including some cases that were seen before the Supreme Court. She was involved in. I think because he's also got his hand in the pocket as well. So I think there should be some law or some rule. First of all, Congress should pass. They can't insider trade, which they can right now. So nobody in Congress should be able to trade in the stock market because they have too much, they are influencing the stock market. So you should not be able to then invest in the thing that you are influencing. And I don't think any sitting Supreme Court justice should be taking money from anybody. And if you do, you lose your job immediately. I know it's a job for life, but there should be some caveats. It should not be a job for life. I think they should not get lifetime tenure. I think this is an impeachable act, but I think the problem is, to your point, Renee Seiler, they're self-policing. So is the fox going to say, hey, them chickens, let's stop eating chickens. Let's not go in the hen house.
Hey, you stop that, drop that chicken.
Drop the chicken.
While you're not on a drumstick over here.
Yeah, wait, hold on. Let me get this chicken. Oh, you got a chicken. Oh, wait, put the chicken down.
But I think that what's really, as a woman, what's frustrating is that these people are holding the future of women's reproductive health in their grubby, grimy, unclean hands. And somehow they're supposed to make rulings that the rest of us just say, okay, well, I guess that's fine. I guess that's just the way it's going to be. And they're somehow above reproach. This is no good. And this has to change. I don't know what the answer is, but just when you think there's a light at the end of the tunnel, we had the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers and all this sort of like what's wrapping up now with Trump and these cases. And you're just starting to feel like, okay, the pendulum is swinging sort of back to the middle. Then you have this nonsense. So very, very frustrating.
And no shame, right? There was a time, even Nixon resigned, there was a time where there was some shame associated with once people found out that you are corrupt. This man's just, Clarence Thomas, like, what you gonna do? Who's gonna check me, boo? Nobody gonna check me. Yeah, I did it. What? Oh, this is so terrible. Speaking of the Proud Boys, founded by our very own Dante Nero. Shout out to you, Dante. One-time president, Enrique Tarrio. And it's interesting, the Proud Boys have a history of being founded and run by people with color. Melanated folk is so weird to me. Oh, we are so complicated.
Hatred is a hell of a drug.
Jesus. He and three subordinates were convicted of numerous felonies, including the seditious conspiracy for January 6th, the attack. Federal jury in D.C. found Tarrio, Ethan Nordine, and Zachary Rail and Joseph Biggs guilty of conspiring to prevent the peaceful transfer of power from Donald Trump to Joe Biden. And what is it? They're facing a maximum of 20 years in prison. So
I thought sedition was punishable by death.
Death. Yeah, I
Is
did
that
too.
not like,
Yeah.
and now it's not just 20 years, it's up to 20 years. So these guys could get like, oh, here you go, here's 7 years. And then for trying to do what they did, trying to like, what is happening? It's just when I'm thinking that things are starting to be normal again, we have this abnormal nonsense. So I don't
You're
know.
correct. A person who's found guilty of attempted mutiny, mutiny, sedition, failure to suppress or report of mutiny or sedition shall be punished by death. Yeah.
So what's going on there?
I
Where did
don't
they
I
get
don't
20
know.
years, up to 20 years from?
Listen, I'm not fighting for the death of anybody because I'm going to be consistent in that. But yes, you are correct. At least that should be on a table somewhere. This is weird. We're in some strange times, and I don't think. And the problem is we as a nation are hypocrites. And so you're raising a nation of children who are looking at, you can't, as a parent, how do you explain any of this to your children? Because they're learning one thing, maybe maybe they're learning nothing in their schools around what the history says. But, we're teaching right and wrong, hopefully in your homes at least. And then if someone, well, mommy, well, daddy, why that person's wrong? Why aren't they, that person took a life? Well, why? And then we twist ourselves to make excuses. And this is the problem too. You're making excuses for wrong.
Yeah.
There should be a due north of right and wrong. Unless your life is being threatened, they call that self-defense, right? Taking another person's life should be a crime. Period.
Exactly. Yes. Why is this? It's the whole, I believe social media has a big part of it. I don't think that, we're getting, there's so much propaganda. Now we have AI and we have things that look legitimate, but really aren't legitimate. Then we have, go on and on and on. But the person who called in and said that there was a desensitization to violence, I believe that's 100%. We just are not shocked anymore. Like we used to be, that if you saw something horrible like that, it would take a minute to come back from that. And you would feel some kind of way and you would be right. It's not like that anymore. And then, the very next day, and I feel that we're getting this way with these shootings, is that there's another shooting. We can't even remember the shooting that happened 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, how many people died and what were the circumstances around that. That's crazy.